Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me another episode of Strategy with Jason. This is a very special episode. I get to talk to everybody that's going to the automotive event literally just a couple weeks from now, and I am so excited today. Today, I have Gino with Dealer E-Process. We're going to talk all things website, which, you know, if you listened to my show before, one of my favorite topics. Gino, how you doing? Thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today.
Of course, Jason. Thanks for having me on. I know we were just talking about this, but I think we've been trying to get this podcast going for a while now, and fortunately, we made it happen. So I'm excited.
And we're going to thank David Kain for bringing us together and letting us jam today. So, but look, I do have to say, I go to a lot of events, I do. And, I just have mad appreciation for what David has done, and now NCM getting, into the whole mix of it. I'm just super excited to see how this event is going to continue to grow. I think it's a great balance of, dealer and vendor, really sitting down side by side. It's good ratio. It's not, let's say, sensory overload like some conferences can be. So I'm so excited. But hey, you know what? Do you know what I like to do to kick off these podcasts is to start off with a little origin story, because like we were talking about earlier before we started recording, I don't think anybody just wakes up one day and says, yeah, I'm going to commit a large part of my life to the automotive industry. Mm-hmm. So let's start there, Gino. How did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
Oddly enough, I found this job on Craigslist, if you can believe it. Not the job I'm in now, of course, the job I started in. So back in 2013, so we're going on almost 11 years now, mm-hmm. I was coming out of grad school, and I was coming out with a degree in everyone's most favorite subject. Everyone's jealous when I tell them this, applied economics. So I was coming out of school with that degree, and at the time, so that degree is based on data science and analysis and real nerdy stuff like that. At the time, I was also starting to explore this little thing called Google Ads, or at the time it's called Google AdWords. So I was enjoying that aspect because it was a great mixture of creativity and data analysis, and really, to me, was a fun new avenue that I had never explored before. So when I came out of school, I started looking for jobs in that arena. Where can I go take what I learned in, kind of the data and analytics world, plus what I've been learning about this Google thing, put it together and maybe make a career out of it. And lo and behold, I was searching everywhere, right? Obviously, the major sites like Indeed and Monster, mm-hmm. and I was starting to get a little desperate. So I'm like, well, maybe somebody's posted something on Craigslist. And sure enough, on Craigslist was this company called Dealer E-Process that was looking for a Google page search strategist. So I'm like, this is perfect. It's exactly what I was looking for. The description matched exactly what I was hoping to find. I came in, did the interview, and we were a real small company back then, maybe 35, 40 employees, something to that extent. And I was hired that same day as the second total paid search strategist in the company. And I immediately fell in love with it. It was not only, what I wanted to do, learn in this kind of digital marketing sphere, sure, but the company, the culture, the fact that we, that our owner was in the office every single day, which our owner is still in the office every single day. We are the last of the major providers out there that are still owned and operated by our founder, who his name's Joe Gillespie, was a former car dealer himself who hated his websites at the time and started a company to make better ones. And we've been doing that ever since. And so when I started here, I started obviously, diving in head first, tons to learn about Google, but then also learning the dynamics of a dealership, which I knew nothing about because I never came from that world. So
lots of 3-letter acronyms and 4-letter words, right?
Oh yeah. Lots of 4-letter words. I'm like, oh, this is an interesting company to work for. I could fit in pretty well here. But yeah, definitely a lot of, baptism by fire at the earlier points. So I did that role for a little while as a paid search strategist. And then I started to branch off into other aspects of the business. I actually digital marketing salesperson, essentially. So we had developed at the time our marketing software. We had just launched it, and I was tasked with, hey, go show this to dealers, show them the benefits of it, see if anybody wants to sign up. And it was a good system, and I guess I was okay at selling it. So we grew that team of what was just me and one other person quickly to about 10 people within about an 18-month period. And that team's now close to maybe 25 people at this point. But it was really just kind of a growth, and then I continued my trajectory throughout the company to where I'm now the chief revenue officer. So that might be a longer answer than what most people give, but that's kind of my origin story on how I got here today.
But you know what? That's such a perfect automotive origin story. It's like, look, most people I talk to, even owners I talk to, never actually got into the business to own a dealership or become the part of a much bigger group. I mean, it's just, but that's automotive, man. Mm-hmm. It's everybody from any walk of life, any level of education. There's just, look, it's fun. It makes it really, really fun. Okay, let's get into our topic today, because hands down, we got a chance to jam about this a little bit before we started recording. This is one of my favorite topics. It's in not our physical dealership, but our digital or our virtual dealership, the one that gets thousands and thousands and thousands of unique visitors every single month. And sometimes it's considered to be kind of the secondary property, when in reality, it's the first and primary property for any good dealership out there. But you got a cool workshop. And I love this. It's captivating car shoppers, crafting an irresistible website experience. Man, look, I'm going to let you talk, because I'm super curious to see how you kind of attack this and what approach you take it. So kind of give me kind of the high level of what you're going to be speaking at the workshop.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I'm like you, this is one of my favorite topics to talk about, because there is so much that can be done in terms of improvements at the dealership by disconnecting and taking a step back and looking at your website, and by extension, your marketing, kind of a higher level, and really understanding what best practices are not being taken advantage of and how to solve for that. And a lot of these issues that we'll talk about at the session are pretty easy things to fix. But I think a lot of times dealers will get a little bit too into the weeds, maybe get sold a few too many products to put on their site. And then when you look at it through the lens of a customer, you see that the site is getting a little bit jumbled up, sure, not very easy to use, can be confusing to a lot of people. So we'll talk a lot about that. But the way that we look at websites and the way that I look at websites, Jason, is interesting. It's different than what you just mentioned. And that's been kind of a new evolution for us in terms of our thought process on websites, to where we've historically called websites what you called them, our digital showroom or our virtual showroom.
Sure.
Which is historically what they have been. No arguments there. Because if you think about it, what's a showroom? It's a static place. I, as a customer, could walk in there, see what you got, and then go wherever I want to from there.
You got it.
That's a very passive experience.
Agreed.
It puts too much onus on the customer to kind of figure out what to do. So instead of saying that your website is your digital showroom, we've changed to saying that your website should be your digital salesperson. Because think back to that example. If I walk into your showroom and then a salesperson greets me, they're going to ask me questions. What are you here to see? What vehicles are you looking for? Are there certain features or creature comforts that you need to have in the car? And once that salesperson learns those answers from me, then he or she will take me to a set of vehicles that says, where they say, hey, these three, they're in your price range. They have what you want. They're the right colors. Which one do you want to test drive?
Yeah, be the consultative, right?
Right. And that's a good experience for people, and it makes their lives a lot easier, right? And so we've really just been asking ourselves, why wouldn't the website do that? Because most websites don't today, right? Because anytime you come back to the site or go to the site, it's like you're there the first time, even though you may have been there 5 times or before. And the dealership or the site should know a thing or two about you to not keep giving you the same experience over and over again. So
you're 100% right. And you know what? It's funny that you kind of bring this up. And I love this rabbit hole, by the way. By the way, you're going to find out real quick. I find rabbit holes. We'll just randomly go down them.
I'm good with it.
Yeah. like I remember. So I got live chat, on my dealership's website, 2009. All right. Which pretty relatively early, live chat. And Gino, I got to be honest with you. Like, I was stoked. I was excited. I was like, exactly what you just described. This is what I thought was going to happen in, 08, 09, right? It was like, live chat. What? I can put a button on my website and someone can click on it and I can say hi and they can say hi and I can ask questions and they can ask questions and we can create a connection. And then when they come into the dealership, like, it's just the continuance of that digital connection now becomes a physical connection. I was jacked. I was excited. And then our industry turned into a lead generation tool. So I'm excited about what you're saying, but you know what, maybe it was too early. Now way technology has progressed, maybe this is actually the better time for us to get into that. So I want to go farther down this connection rabbit hole, because I'm with you on this. I think that is the biggest opportunity a dealership has out there. If you're watching and listening to this right now, the biggest opportunity you have is creating connections. But to do so, you got to come out, to your point, you got to come out and have that digital, like, hi, how you doing?
Yeah.
Handshake, right?
Yeah. So the way you just explained it is exactly the evolution that we've seen in these things. So you said, as a dealer back in 08 and 09, it'd be great if my website could have a conversation with somebody, right? And then you see this chat application. You're like, perfect. This is what I want it to do. I'm going to let it do its thing. Then fast forward a little bit, and you and other dealers said, it would be great if a customer could get a trade-in evaluated online. Oh, there's tools to do that. Cool. So I'm going to put it here, and it's going to do its thing. And then other tools like texting came around, credit pulls came around, digital retailing came around, and all of these purpose. I don't want to negate that. They all have a function that they're designed to do, and they do it well, and they do it for a reason, and that reason is usually a good one for the dealer and the customer. But you talked about the evolution these days. That evolution has now gotten to a point to where dealers have a lot of tools on their site from oftentimes a lot of different vendors. And going back to that idea of giving that handshake, that personalized experience, you cannot do that if your tools don't share customer data back and forth and don't talk to one another.
100%.
It's like, if I go into your site today and I chat with you, right, through your chat application, none of your other tools on your site know what that chat was, knows who I am, knows anything about what I was talking about. So now I go in the next day and I talk to your trade-in tool. Well, maybe I already discussed what trade-in I have in the chat tool, but the trade-in tool doesn't know that. It'd be like if your BDC rep sent your salesperson a fresh up and didn't tell that person what car that customer wanted, what features they want, anything they talked about, right? So that's been the evolution so far, is that you've had these tools that have done a lot of good work, but now we're at a point to where it's too important to have that customer data in one unified place to ignore the fact that these tools don't share that data.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about now and moving forward is creating an environment in which all of these tools and the site and the marketing use, what we're calling one unified digital ID, where any customer interaction with any of those tools is cataloged in that ID. And then any of those other tools can look into that ID at any moment if it realizes that customer is using that tool, and pull out that information and say, oh, I know Jason. He was chatting with us a couple days ago, and he saw an ad on Hulu through Amazon advertising and things of that nature. And now I know what car to give him and what features he wants. Like, that's the online salesperson approach that is kind of, to us, the pinnacle of what automotive websites and marketing should be.
Well, and the cool thing is that's using data with the purpose to connect, right? And to create, what your workshop's about, that experience, that website experience. And no, look, I'm 100% with you, right? When, we went through a whole decade, almost a decade and a half of, widgets. I called it the decade of widgets. I really have, right? Like, it's just like, I'm going to grab a widget for this, for this, for this, for that, for this, and this, and that, and this. And sometimes my website might actually have 3 widgets that actually all do the same thing. Anyways, I digress. Yeah. You haven't seen that before, have you?
Never. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right? Never happens. Yeah. but you're right. I mean, it was almost kind of like, this data sitting out there, And, it's now just trying to connect it. But the cool thing is by connecting, it creates that connection. It's like, wait, you know me. And here's something I've told, this is my marketing brain kicking in, right? I've told everybody out there, the best marketing strategy you can ever run in the entire world is the one where your customer feels known.
Yeah.
So by connecting these dots, they feel known. Like, oh, wait, oh yeah, that's right. I did tell you that. Oh, you have that information. Dude, I'm excited. Like, what do you think, what would be, if anybody's considering going to your workshop, what would you say, like, here's like one or two takeaways that you're definitely going to walk away and you're going to bring back to your dealership and put into place immediately? What would you say those takeaways would be?
Yeah, I'd say one thing is we're going to learn how to look at your website through your customer's eyes, which is hugely important because, you and I, we're looking at websites all day. Dealers are looking at their website all day. Plus, dealers know, and we know the standard verbiage in the industry. Customers a lot of times aren't on the same page with us. So when you have a website that says, get e-price, get your payment, get your lease payment, get pre-approved, 10 other things, they don't know what to do.
No.
And they don't know the difference between any of those or what they really mean. So in the session, we look at examples like that and say, talk about one thing I like to tell dealers to do, and I bring this up in the session: sit down with a relative, sit down with a friend, sit down with somebody who is not in the business.
Yeah.
Put them in front of your website, tell them, pretend you're shopping for a car, and then don't say anything else. And look to see where they get stopped up. And more often than not, it's once they come across a car that they like, but then they don't know which of the 12 flashing CTAs on your site they're supposed to engage with. And that's what really kills conversion, because when you look at something like having 12 plus CTAs on a site, which to most people sounds like, I'm elaborating, but there really are sites with that many, if not more.
Easily. I've seen it.
When you put somebody in front of that, it's like there's a phenomenon that's called the paralysis of choice, where if you tell me I have to pick one of 12 things, it's going to be much harder for me to do that than if you tell me, hey, pick one of 5 things. And so what we talk about is, what's the optimal mixture of CTAs? That's going to depend on what your goals are and how you operate as a dealership. Where should these be positioned? What order should these be positioned in? And this isn't just my interpretation of it or Dealery Process's own interpretation of it. The data that I'll bring to the session is based on tens of thousands of websites, over 16,000 websites worth of data that tell us exactly what CTAs should be in which order, what wording you should use in a CTA. So for example, did you know you're much less likely to get a conversion if your digital retailing button says buy this car or uses the word buy in it?
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's too committal.
Right?
So it's like, hold on, this thing's $50,000. I'm going to buy it right now, but I would like to learn more about it. But it's things like that, where if you put the word buy on a button, your conversions are going to drop. So that's part of what we're talking about. We're also going to be talking about more down the lines of that personalization that I was mentioning earlier, but we're also going to be talking about how to evaluate your marketing in relation to what it's saying versus the website. And I've said this for a long time now, and this is still an issue in the industry. A lot of people, dealers and vendors, talk about websites and talk about marketing like they're two different things, which they're not. You cannot run a successful marketing campaign if your website doesn't know what your marketing is talking about. And what you run into with that situation is a customer might see an ad advertising a lease payment at $299 a month. And then when they click on that ad, they don't see that lease payment anywhere. It was the right ad for that person because they clicked on it. But then we totally dropped the ball because the ad just took them to the homepage that had an APR offer instead on a different vehicle than what they were interested in. And it just like, as a consumer now, I have to do all the work to find out what you're talking about. That's not going to fly. Again, I always like to equate that to what's the experience like in the dealership. It's like if I walk into the dealership and say, hey, I see you guys are advertising $299 a month, and the salesperson I'm talking to has no idea what I'm talking about. Right.
It just creates for a major disconnect. It's, you're talking about trying to enhance the experience. Well, boom, that's what kills the experience. In fact, actually, that's actually really well for anybody out there watching and listening. Experience are won and lost, not on big things, but on little things. Mm-hmm. Right. And those kind of little things like being felt like you're known because you've already answered that question once before. That's a little thing, but that creates an experience. Or you can go the polar opposite. Holy crap, I got to give you my information all over again. Then we already had this conversation yesterday, which then goes to the other opposite direction of the experience wheel, right? Look, I'm so excited for this workshop. And hey, if you're out there watching, listening right now, April 9th to the 11th, all right, you need to go to Kain.auto. Yes, I said it right. Kain.auto. There's still tickets left. All right. I know the first hotel is already booked, but I think there's a few other hotel options out there. So you can jump on that. But hey, Gino, before I let you go, you actually are in one of the top 3 finalists for the Shark Tank.
Yes.
I'm curious if you wanted to throw out any smack talk before I let you go. And also, I'd like to get the best way to connect with you.
So I will throw out some smack talk politically. And I'll say that the 2 companies that we're going against, this was just announced last night. So we have, it'll be us, it'll be Autograph Analytics, and then Car Cutter. The 3 of us, very different companies, very different services that we offer. And I think those other 2 have some pretty tough competition. But I will say they are going against the reigning champion of the Shark Tank, because I won last year, first place. And what's even more exciting for us is that at the show, I can't say anything yet, but at the show, and specifically at the Shark Tank, we are making we are having a big unveiling, some huge new tech that we're going to be rolling out and announcing just before Kain. And the Shark Tank is going to be kind of an expose of what all that technology can do. So it's extra exciting for us because of that.
Well, Gino, I'm super excited to see you defend. Yeah. All right. Defend your championship here. Hey, Gino, for everybody out there, before I let you go, for everyone out there watching and listening, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. If you just search Gino Ciparroni, I don't think there are too many of us on there, so you should be able to find me. And then if anybody wants to reach me directly, my email is just Gino, Gino, at dealereprocess.com.
That's awesome. Hey, Gino, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a lot of fun. Hey, for everyone out there, we will see you at the Kain Auto event.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.